Good morning. I'm Kyle Henning. Today we're going to talk about the second of the 7 quality tools of Lean Six Sigma. Last time we talked about the flow chart or the process map, which gives us, based on our swim lanes, a lane for each department, our critical path to get to the finished product that meets the customer's expectation, the customer's voice. So today we're going to talk about the checklist. Again, the second of the 7 quality tools that help us meet that expectation, which is the customer's voice. Checklists are used all around the world in varying industries. The two that are key to saving absolutely millions of lives, and there's no exaggeration, is the airline industry, the aviation industry, as well as the medical, the surgical industry. So on an airline, they rate themselves by touchdowns, safe touchdowns. So right now, there are more than 10,000 planes in the air, an average of 207 passengers per plane. That is a lot of passengers in the air right now. And the average flight is actually only 5.5 hours. So then at 5.5 hours, you have another 10,000 flights taken off. This is an amazing and astonishing number. And the fact that we hardly ever hear about plane crashes or fatalities, even more so, in the aviation industry, tells us how vital that checklist is to that industry and why it is used so predominantly. Now let's go into the medical field. And there is a specific role of a person inside that surgery room, inside the operating room, and that is called a scrub tech, a surgical scrub tech. Now, the scrub tech's job is to make sure that all of the instruments needed for that procedure are in a specific order of operation. Remember your flow chart. It's in the specific order of operation needed to get the desired result. And that they're all absolutely sterile for the process. They're also making sure that the environment, if anybody else comes into the environment that interferes with that sterile environment, that they're put in a check, immediately removed, or the process is started over again. So, and then the most important aspect that I think is amazing about this is, similarly to a safe touchdown in the aviation industry, the scrub tech's job is to make sure that they end the surgery with the same number of instruments and tissues on the table as when they started, because otherwise there's gauze, there's a pad, there's something left inside that human body. So that's why the checklists are so important. So just as a checklist is so vitally important in the medical and the aviation industry, they are just that important in making sure that we're meeting the expectation of our customer's voice. We're listening to the customer's voice. We are inspecting the process along the way, so our end product meets our expectation. Remember, you can only expect what you inspect, and the checklist is a vital reason for that. So the checklist is simply, if I'm supposed to ship 110 items today, or when I was at Amazon, if I'm supposed to ship 583,000 items today, did I meet that goal? If not, where are the missing items, right? We had a policy called no package left behind. So we had to account for every package that was not in our final number, because the system told us, based on our internet sales, how many packages I should be shipping. And if I didn't ship that number, why? What was the reason? What is the root cause analysis? Let's research it, find out where are those packages, did we communicate with the customer? All these things are things that go inside that checklist. Now, I've been in an organization where like, oh, we don't need a checklist because all that information is system generated. Absolutely, that's the metadata. That is the key part to a checklist, because we want to make sure that if the system says I'm supposed to ship 582,000 parts today or products today to my customers, did I? How many did I actually ship? Now that's based on a manual count. So am I manually counting what the system is generating at the same time? Is there a mismatch? If there's a mismatch, okay, let's do some more root cause analysis, 5 whys. There's lots of different tools, and we'll get into some of those later on in this 7-part series. But we want to make sure that we're using not just the visual observations of the process, but we're using that metadata that system generated. How many parts are supposed to ship? What is my quality rating? What is the temperature of the environment? Depending on if we're manufacturing or if we're shipping or what we're doing, we can add all those items into a checklist. Now let's be careful not to make that checklist too monstrous, right? We don't want to make it so monstrous that it becomes too hard to manage. But we want to make sure that it flows with a critical path. So basically our KPIs, right? Our key performance indicators. So if this is our critical path from A to Z, what are the key elements to make sure that I can get that end result? And let's make sure we're checking on those. Customer satisfaction. Is my quality rating good enough? If not, why? So I can backtrack that. Did I ship all my products? If not, why? So I can backtrack that. Did all my people show up to work today? If not, why? So I can backtrack that. So you want to make sure you can add these key elements, but again, not too monstrous of a check sheet. What I always prefer to do is I like to make sure to use the checklist as a way to gauge or develop the team. Remember, the only way to grow a company is to grow its people. So as you start adding checklists for the individual user, let's say that we have a put away clerk. Okay, that put away clerk is supposed to put away 1,000 items today and at a rate of 100 items per hour, whatever the case may be. You add that stuff there. Oh, did he do an aisle check, right? So we want to make sure to assign them an aisle or a department or some other aspect, right? So they're taking ownership over the process, and you add that to the checklist. So as that team member now has ownership, that's his checklist. These are his priorities. He's adding those items. He's making sure he's doing them. He's checking them off, making sure that he's managing that part of the process. Remember the swim lane? He's got a specific swim lane that he's operating in. That checklist flows up to his lead. His lead has a checklist, and one of those things the lead's checklist says, did I get a checklist from all of my warehouse associates, or all of my manufacturing techs, or all of my assembly techs, right? So the actual associate, the lead, then the supervisor has one. The supervisor says, hey, did my lead collect all of the associate checklist? Then the manager, and it just flows all the way up. So at my level, I can sit back in an organization and I can go into a repository and I can see that my managers have collected all their checklists from all the people that report underneath them. So I know, based on all that checklist and all the metadata and manual entry from that checklist, that my customer's voice is being heard. We are going to meet the expectation because I've inspected the process. Again, this is the second of the 7 quality tools, the checklist. Have a wonderful day.